Alright everyone, it is now clear that Joe Biden is literally going mad and is ready for the funny farm. I didn't need to see the debate performance that he put on a few days ago, by the way, to know this. I've been saying it for several years. When he first got into office in 2020, he had some cognitive decline. But it wasn't at this particular level. Since then, he's tripping and injuring himself over and over. He's done this in public a number of times. He has to use the short staircase for Air Force One. He has to ride the short bus, so to speak. Frequently doesn't appear to know where he's going, frequently has verbal gaffes, and that's not a stutter, by the way. The big coat was Joe Biden's, Donald Trump is a felon and evil and ignorant and a rapist and stuff. Joe Biden has a stutter. That was basically, the presidential checklist sort of thing put out by the liberals, and that's not hyperbolic. It's completely the opposite of reality. Joe Biden does not have a stutter. In fact, I looked back through some of the proceedings in the Senate, and even as vice president and stuff like that. I couldn't really detect a stutter. Everyone occasionally goes, goes off like that, but that doesn't mean that you have a stutter. A stutter is more of a chronic thing. And the idea was as he got older, it got harder to disguise the stutter. Like he became a master at suppressing his stuttering, and then became this masterful speaker. But now, he's older, so he can't do it as well anymore. And even his cope is basically the same thing, by the way. He's like, well, I may not be as energetic as I used to be. I may not be able to debate as well as I used to be, but by golly, I'm going to defend democracy. It's like, what the fuck are you even talking about? He's going insane in real time. Is he even going to make it to the election? He refuses to stand down. I'm wondering if they might not try to remove him physically, as in, impeach him and say, well, sorry, Joe. This just can't be a thing. Imagine he becomes the first president to be removed from office. Not resign, but be removed from office. They literally frog march him out there, and then Kamala, unfortunately, gets her field day. She'd lose re-election, but it'd be hilarious. Be hilarious in a sad way. I like grave humor, basically. That's why I would find it amusing. He's going mad. As in, literally nuts. And that's dangerous, you would think, to have the so-called leader of the free world sometimes not really know where he is, and certainly often doesn't recall what year it is rather concerning. I mean, we might end up with that problem with Trump. Let's say that we elect Trump. He's 78 years old. He'd be about as old as Joe Biden is now leaving office. He could develop cognitive impairment. He could develop cognitive decline. It's one reason why his choice of a VP matters so much. It's got to be someone better than Kamala. I realize that's a fairly low bar, but preferably someone who's good. Again, could be Tulsi Gabbard. Vance is fine. Rubio's fine, actually. And he'd cream Kamala Harris. He's actually not a bad debater, even though he did have his nervous breakdown there with Chris Christie that one time. But Christie is a superior debater, so he's actually quite good at that. We'll give him a compliment that he doesn't deserve. But Biden, he's not just cognitively impaired. At this point, it's verging in on him being insane. He's so egotistical that he can't possibly watch his debate performance, for example, and say that it was anything other than an absolute stinker. He can't possibly be that delusional. So he's choosing to see that, say, well, I'm looking at the poll numbers. I'm looking at my debate performance. I'm looking at who my fucking VP is. Maybe he's just trying to cockblock her. Thanks, Joe, if that's the one thing that you accomplished, by the way. At least you did something during your rather short presidency. Because I don't think he's going to get reelected. I think there's a very low chance of that at this point. He's looking at all these things, and he's still stubbornly clinging to the the nostalgia that he has from back when he was the big powerful senator. And he was a ranking senator for a long time. He was in Congress for 30 years or some shit like that. He was one of the longest serving. Then he becomes VP. He's remembering fondly when he had power. It's sort of like watching Bilbo Baggins obsess over the ring. Literally the Ring of Power. It's a giant symbol. The entirety of Lord of the Rings is around the whole symbol of power. It's encapsulated in this specific device, this specific object, and, once you've got it, once you've got power, you don't want to relinquish it. Bilbo does manage to relinquish power, so I don't know if it's the greatest example. It's more like Smeagol, I suppose. It's more like Gollum. You know, he loses the precious and then he's driven mad by it. Yeah, Joe Biden is basically Gollum when you think about it. Looks a little bit similar at this point too. You know, that last facelift didn't last very long. He's going literally mad. I mean, we might see a moment over the coming months. We may very well see a moment in which Joe Biden is shuffling around in the White House window with his pants around his ankles or something like that. It is entirely possible. Once you go into that kind of mental decline, when you're old, whether it's dementia or not, it doesn't get better. You can take all the nootropics and shit that you want. You can live the healthy vegetarian lifestyle, jog 10 miles a day, keep fit, do everything else that you possibly can. You can be like that one dude. He's in his 40s, but he's had all sorts of surgery and shit and takes like 100 supplements a day and cryo baths and stuff like that to try to be immortal, which he's not going to accomplish, although he does look younger than his age. You can do that, but eventually, you know, the Grim Reaper comes calling, you know, for your mind first, unfortunately, usually. There are some people that are 100 years old, and cognitively they're still generally there, and they're still old and fucked up, but they do pretty well. There was that one park ranger, I think from Arizona, if I remember correctly, that was pushing 100 years old, and she was still on the job, for example. She didn't look 100. 50, 60, maybe somewhere around there. She, for her age, God, she was in top physical condition. It's about as good as you can possibly hope for. But that's the outlier. The fact is that Joe Biden has dementia. It's not just a stutter. It's not just mild cognitive impairment. He's old. He forgets things sometimes. No, old and forgets things sometimes is not what we saw on stage at the debate. It's also not what we've been seeing for the last couple of years. He's fallen down all the time. He's fallen over sandbags. He's fallen up the stairs. He's apparently chasing his dog to grab its tail in the bathroom, slipping and breaking his foot, and like weird shit like that. The dude is nuts. It's time to put him out to the funny farm. It's time to sundown Joe Biden, let him wander off to into the sunset, basically. But he's not willing to do that. Somebody else is going to have to force him to do that. It would be Congress, but they don't seem willing to do so. The Republicans would love to impeach and remove him, although it might backfire on them spectacularly. I don't think there are enough Dem votes to pull it off, though. Maybe impeachment, but I don't know if they have enough Dems in the Senate that would be willing to throw him under the bus, so it's probably, you know, it's Jover for him politically already, but it's probably also Jover for the Democrats to an extent for a while. That's about all. Peace out.